All right, happy to get the Rutgers side of things from our guy Bobby Deren, writes for 24/7 Sports, been covering Rutgers for a long time. Bobby, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. Good to talk to you again, Jeremy.
Yeah, so big win for Rutgers at Purdue. We were just
Yes.
talking about it. It was a really bad start to Big Ten play, losing four straight. What did that win mean to get that win at Purdue, to come back in it, Bobby?
It kind of reju-
Yeah, go ahead.
it kind of rejuvenated the season in a way because they started out 3-0, lost four straight, lost two tough ones with they were leading late against Iowa, leading late against Minnesota, and even against Washington. Even though they got pummeled in the second half, they were up at halftime. So fans got a little taste of it, but the defense just couldn't get it together. And it was a 3-point win against Purdue, but at that point, after losing those games, a win is a win. And it could do some things, moving forward. Momentum's a funny thing in college football. Greg Schiano had his handprints all over the defense again. And in the game, they gave up 345 yards, but 170 were on four plays. So you eliminate those miscues, and maybe you have a semblance of a solid defense that can start getting stops.
Greg Schiano's just brought competitiveness back to that program, right? In his second stint, he's the one guy who has found a way to succeed, at least relatively, at this level. Take us in 6 years into this second stint. Where's this program at, and what's made him the guy to do this?
It's a different animal at Rutgers because you're not in SEC football country. Then you're buried in the middle of New Jersey. You have all the North Jersey is affiliated with pro sports and New York teams. South Jersey is affiliated with all the Philadelphia sports teams. So there you have Rutgers, and it doesn't have the support that some of these other programs have. So if they're not winning games, it's kind of they're an afterthought. So to really get that brand out there, you have to win. And he's been able to do that. And it's been, before he came, when he left, it was just an abyss. So he's had a successful formula for it. And fans were overjoyed to get him back because it was so dreary when Rutgers entered the Big Ten and they were just, losing, lopsided games one after the other. So he understands what needs to be done there. And he's also, Jeremy, doing it with very little help with NIL from the previous athletic department administration, have a new AD in there now. So they're hopeful that they can get that up, but he's kind of piecemealing this thing together.
Yeah, so take me in. What were expectations coming into this year, Bobby? And, losing your four straight Big Ten games, what was the feeling there?
Well, it wasn't a season where fans were expecting a 10-win season because you have Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State on the schedule. So nobody expected the Penn State debacle. But in the beginning of the year, everybody's circling 3 losses. So then you have 9 games to kind of make your bones. And fans were hopeful 7-8 wins. Last season they didn't have any of those big hitters on there and had a lot of injuries. Only won 7 regular season games. But it was a step up. So fans were hoping for a continuation of that and the final emergence of an offense because they waited so long. And we had spoke, about Ethan Kaliakmanis before going on. He's having a record year. Rutgers hasn't seen an offense like this in more than a decade. So I think it's a little bittersweet because the defense has been so bad. It's uncharacteristic of a Greg Schiano team. But as you watch, if you watched last week, he had his hands all over that defense and they played better. So we'll see this week. Can he continue to dial up some stuff? You can only do so much from a coaching standpoint. Players have to make plays, but you could see the difference, the noted difference in the way that the defense played. Came up with a turnover at the end. That wasn't happening before last week. And that gave them a last second field goal to win the game. So little things like that, you see slight changes. Now, is it enough to do wholesale changes to win some games and go to a bowl game? That remains to be seen.
Bobby, I want to pause and sit here and say the program we've covered, Rutgers in Illinois. I mean, love my boy Art Sikowski, but some lean years at quarterback for Rutgers, some very lean years at quarterback for Illinois. These are two of the best passing offenses in the Big Ten and in the country. Luke Altmaier having a fantastic year. Ethan Kaliakmanis, man, like he is having a year. What has led to this growth of him and this passing attack this year?
Well, he started with Kirk Soraka at Minnesota, and they kind of reunited at Rutgers. And last year he was doing okay. The second half of the season, he started to emerge and he got settled. He understood the offense. He was making smart plays. He wasn't making dumb throws, but he also has some help with a very good wide receiving core. I mean, KJ Duff and Ian Strong are big receivers, and sometimes he'll just throw it around them and they catch the ball. So they've made his job a little bit easier too. He even said, sometimes I just get it near them and that they're going to catch the football. I mean, KJ Duff, 6 catches, 241 yards last week. So that's made his job easier, but he's just dialed in. This guy just lives, breathes football. The team respects him on both sides. He just puts in a lot of work. He's one of those guys that will outwork a higher rated guy at times. If you get a prospect in there, well, why didn't this guy work out? This is a guy who will work above his potential.
KJ Duff and Ian Strong, huge wideouts going up against an Illinois secondary that is really, really struggling. A lot of contested catches. Is that how they use these guys? Not a lot of yak, but ton of contested catches. How do they use those guys?
Sometimes he just throws it up, and KJ Duff is 6'6", and he's athletic, and he knows how to get open. He doesn't have that great straight line speed. I mean, he's fast, but he's not a burner. But he just comes out of his routes and runs them so well that he finds space. And Ian Strong is a strong, no pun intended, a strong receiver. You get it near him, and he big hands, and just he's tough to guard, draws a lot of DPIs. And he was hurt last week, though. So Duff did that on his own. They're hopeful of getting Ian Strong back. They tried to get him to go last game, but it was a no-go beforehand. So we'll see. I mean, sometimes they call it a lower body, so sometimes, the lower bodies, they can linger and we'll see. But these guys are just, physical receivers who can get open and that sometimes they just chuck it up like they did that a couple times, against Purdue last week and they couldn't handle Duff. And, I think you'll see similar stuff this weekend.
Big question was who replaces Kyle Monungai, who's now running for my Bears, had some nice moments. Antoine Raymond has really stepped up, one of the most dangerous, productive running backs in the Big Ten. What's his style compared to Monungai, and what's made him successful?
He's an interesting one because he really should be a true freshman this year. He reclassified down a year, and last year, he was an elusive runner, but this year he's been more patient. He's running through contact. He could run a little lower in certain instances, but he has good vision. It's kind of just a melange of a lot of different skills, and he credited a lot of that to playing with Kyle Monungai, who just prepared relentlessly. And it's nice to see him getting work with the Bears as well. I think he's going to be a solid back there for a while. And he's a pretty much an all around running back. Antoine Raymond, he stays in and blocks on third down. He's the best running back, best blocker they have at running back, and he's starting to catch the football now. So it's really all elements to his game, and they'll hand it off to him on a 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 confidently to get the first down, much like they did with Monungai last year.
Rutgers has allowed a lot of sacks, but they're playing from behind a lot. They have to throw the ball a lot. Some teams can pin their ears back. How would you characterize the offensive line? How would you evaluate them so far this season?
It's been, they've had some guys return. And Pat Flaherty came in a couple years ago. He coached with the New York Giants for a number of years, won 2 Super Bowl rings there. So he gets the most out of these guys. These are not, NFL draft picks on the line, but he's getting them to play well. Now, they could have an issue this week at the tackle position. They're already on the 3rd tackle and at left tackle. So what they did last week, Taj White, starting right tackle, got hurt. Switched Ty Needham from left to right, brought in a transfer from LIU, who's a redshirt sophomore named Mo Giwa, who might start this weekend at left tackle. And they lost someone in camp, someone of the second 2 games in. So Ty Needham was their 3rd guy. I mean, he was still along the line going to play somewhere, but it's been a lot of injuries at the tackle spot. And everybody else, they're kind of like a very blue-collar group, not the most oversized bunch, but, try to play with very good technique and fundamentals. And a lot of them have played above their potential. You're not looking at, 5-star recruits on the Rutgers, 4-star recruits even on the offensive line. The last draft pick they've had was Anthony Davis in 2010. Wow. So, 15-year drought with that will tell you, they're just trying to make do with what they have.
what has gone so wrong defensively? We could both ask each other this question, but Rutgers having that problem too. Did hold Purdue to 24. Obviously, Purdue not a great team. Had to play Oregon, all those. But what has gone so wrong defensively for them?
Big plays, a lot of a lot of mistakes. But I think it comes down to they relied a lot on some transfers coming in, and those transfers haven't lived up to their billing. They haven't haven't been able to get a consistent pass rush. 9 sacks only on the season, but it just hasn't been there. So even when the secondary is playing better, they have to cover for so long without that pass rush. They get left out to dry. So it's been a combination. All 3 levels have not really been stout this year, to say the least, giving up big plays, leaving, not even little things, not setting the edge, letting guys, just run free around the corner, taking bad angles, miscommunications, wrong fits. I mean, you name it. It was just a mess. So Greg Schiano took it over. And Rob Smith is still the DC there, but you can see, and we watched last week, Greg's calling and stuff, and he's got the sheet and everything. So he's just trying to make do. But I think the biggest thing was they relied on a lot of these transfers, and they just didn't pan out.
Did Schiano do anything differently with him calling it compared to Rob Smith, who people probably remember from Minnesota for a little bit, and then obviously at Rutgers here?
Yeah, he was just changing up some blitzes and stuff like that, and Greg has, as far as the secondary goes, he's always had his hands with the DBs. So always coached the DBs, and you could see the difference in their play. They made a couple of mistakes on those big plays, but for the most part, I thought they played a little bit better. They were around the ball a lot more. His defenses are a swarming type defense. That's what they've always been in the past, and you could see more of that. Trying to get those takeaways. They got that big turnover at the end. It just seemed like a more disciplined group. The eye discipline wasn't there with the Rob Smith. It wasn't polished at all. And last week you saw a little bit more of that. Didn't change the scheme dramatically, but a few things here or there. But definitely you could see an upgrade, even though they still gave up 24 points against Purdue. But I mentioned a lot of that had to do with those big plays.
I've kind of jokingly, whether it was Illinois basketball, struggling through those years, Rutgers, the same thing, football, like these Rutgers Illinois games have kind of been classics in their own way.
Yeah.
Last year's was a classic. I mean, Pat Bryant, what a turn of events late in that game. Does that add anything to this game, or what does this game mean for Rutgers?
That was a tough one for fans to get over. That was a heartbreaker. And Rutgers hasn't beaten a ranked team since 2009, so that would have been their first last year. And now with Illinois losing, they still don't have a chance to do it this week. So I think the fans, there's a little more confidence after the win last week, but it's not overconfidence, because you still understand that this defense is to call it a work in progress would be maybe an overstatement. So they're hoping for the best, but the defense has been gashed so much this year, and it kind of is salt to the wound, because the offense is finally good, but the defense is finally really bad. So I don't know what we'll get out of it with the second week with Schiano running the defense. He could come out and it's hard to imagine that it turns into a stalwart unit right away, but you have to think he is going to have a positive effect.
Yeah, it feels like another shootout between Illinois and Rutgers, just like last year. What do you think the keys are for Rutgers to pull off this upset?
Rutgers has an insanely good record when they don't turn the ball over. It's not that simple, just, not turn it over, but they're going to have to make some stops. They're going to have to turn some touchdowns into field goals. They're going to have to bend, don't break at times, get a turnover here or there, and continue to stay consistent with the offense. The second half offense, it wasn't consistent all year. There was a drop off up until last week. In the second half of those games. So stay consistent on offense and find a way to slow down Illinois and not let them always get in the end zone. Bend, don't break defense. It could help them, because like you said, I think this game, each team's probably going to go over 30 points.
There's a path to a bowl game here, right? I mean,
yeah.
You did Illinois, you got Maryland and Penn State left. I never thought Penn State would look like a potential win for most teams, but man, you get one here, you just got to get one of the last two, and that'd probably be pretty big for the program, right?
Yeah, and Maryland's historically bad in November. I went back; they're 3-9 in the last 3 Novembers. Rutgers, they always go back and forth with Maryland, so that's a winnable game. I mean, Ohio State, you just want to get out of there without a lot of injuries. I don't think anybody's beating Ohio State, but yeah, and Penn State, there's a scenario where Rutgers could be playing Penn State for bowl eligibility and with a chance to really win. If we would have said that in the beginning of the year, I don't know anybody would have believed you, but we can at least talk about it now. If they drop that game to Purdue, it looks like the season's fried. So, yeah, there's hope of salvaging it. Fans, after going through that first part of the season, 6-6 would be a welcome finish. Maybe the Pinstripe Bowl again. People can take a short trip over the bridge to New York City, but wherever they go, they'd be happy with 6-6 right now.
I do want to ask you before I let you go, Steve Peichel. I've really respected what he's done at Rutgers. Obviously, last year did not work out as well as they hoped with Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. Where's the program go now after that didn't work?
Well, it's another NIL situation where they just don't have it, and he's trying to piece together a team this year. I think it's gonna be a rough year. I was watching some practices, and I don't know where they're gonna score from, and I don't think they have the defenders to play that scrappy rock fight 45-44 game. So the hope is that he gets he's been imploring the administration to get him a general manager for a while. And, you saw last year they had Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, but they had nothing around them. And, they didn't have any money to spend on it. And in this day and age with the portal, it takes some dollars to win. So he's hoping to get that in place. Fans are getting a little uneasy because it's been a few years since they've been to the postseason. But I think this year they have some pieces. They have 7 freshmen, 2 of which are older international players. But if they can keep those guys, I think that's the semblance of a solid team. But I don't think they're going to come in right away and light it up. So I think it's going to be a tough year. 500 would be a monumental accomplishment.
For sure. Bobby, Deren, appreciate your time as always, man. Go read their stuff, 24/7 Sports, Rutgers. Bobby, appreciate you, man.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy.
New sponsor alert. We're proud to add Game Day Spirit as a new sponsor to the show. Most Illini fans should be familiar with Game Day Spirit as the official fan store of the Fighting Illini, selling the best Illini gear in town or online. And that's why I'm personally excited about this partnership. We have a lot of people in town who can visit their store in Champaign at the corner of 6th and Green in Campustown, or at Neal and Kirby in Champaign, really close to Memorial Stadium and State Farm Center. But we know we have listeners all around the country, all around the world, and that's why Game Day Spirit is great, because you can go online at GameDaySpirit.com and get the best Illini gear available. And right now, Game Day Spirit is kicking off their partnership with us by offering an exclusive discount for you Illini Inquirer listeners. Get 15% off your next purchase with them online at GameDaySpirit.com when you use the code Illini15 at checkout. That's 15% off your next purchase with Game Day Spirit at GameDaySpirit.com when you use the code Illini15 at checkout. You can shop their great selection of Fighting Illini merchandise to continue to cheer on your Fighting Illini football team this season, or get some new gear to support the men's basketball team as they start their season. They have everything an Illini fan could want, from t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, and official NIL jerseys of your favorite Illini athlete. Visit them in store in Champaign, or at the corner of 6th and Green in Campustown, or Neal and Kirby in Champaign. And be sure to use the exclusive Illini Inquirer discount for your next online purchase at GameDaySpirit.com by using Illini15 at checkout at GameDaySpirit.com. That's code Illini15 for 15% off at GameDaySpirit.com. Game Day Spirit, where Illini fans shop. All right, let's talk the Illinois side of this Illinois-Rutgers matchup with Joey Wagner joining us now. And Joey, let's get your recap. Seattle, what'd you think?
Rainy, but it was like an annoying rain where it wasn't, you were walking, like we walked a good amount. I've gotten better about walking, but we walked a good amount. And it wasn't one of those where it's like, oh, this is awful, like you're just soaked. It was just kind of there and a little bit in the way. But I enjoyed Seattle, had a nice time down by the market, had a couple drinks, had a good burgers. We really nailed the smash burger scene in Seattle. Yeah, it was fun. I'd like to go back in the summer when it's not rainy and chilly.
Perpetually rainy, yeah, perpetually rainy and dreary. But that Husky Stadium, man, that's an experience. The view from that, with the lake there, you can see Bellevue across the way. The views at Oregon and Washington, man, they're a little different than Big Ten country, Joey.
They are. I also was thinking about like all the people who cover Washington regularly, and then all of us Midwesterners show up there like, we all have like the tourist camera, like, oh, this is beautiful. It's remarkable. It's the same picture from 4 different angles and then 100 versions of the same picture. And I like, if that were me, I'd be like, yep, the new Big Teners are coming in here and taking a look at what we've gotten used to. But it's really cool.
Yeah, it's like, hey, there's mountains, there's lakes, there's not just flat land everywhere. It's just like, wow, this is awesome. You guys have this, but you do have to deal with the rain from like October through March, I'm told. So I could deal with it because it only gets down to like 45 degrees. But anyway, that's not why people are tuning in to this podcast. Joey, Illinois has got some defensive problems. We'll talk about that. They got a matchup against a Rutgers team that's not very good, but with a good offense. We'll chat about that, and we'll chat about maybe some changes that Illinois have to do. Anything else you want to do before we get into our 6-pack questions? Because I figure we should just dive into this thing and dive into the issues here.
Yeah, we should talk about the offense. That's what people are here to listen to, and let's get into the Illinois offense.
Yeah, all right, so let's get into question number 1. And we could go many different directions here, Joey, because what concerns you most about the Illinois defense right now? Before you chime in, can I just unload some stats here for you?
I would, please.
Because where do we start with Illinois? They are 129th in the country in passes defended per game. They are down. They have 2.5 PBUs per game. That's down from 4 last season, 4.3 in 2023. 2022 was epic. They almost had 7 passes defended per game, 4.33 in 2021. Illinois has 5 sacks in 5 Big Ten games. That's tied for second to last in the conference. Illinois is 132nd in the country, Joey, in third down defense, allowing 48.5% conversions.
Hold on, can I add to that?
Yeah.
It's 58.5 in Big Ten play.
Yeah.
58.5. That is absurd.
This is absurd, too. 3rd and 10 plus defense. Illinois has allowed 10 first downs on 28 attempts. That's 36%. That's worse than 44 teams in all third downs, Joey. In all third downs. Illinois is solid at limiting explosives. That's what they're trying to do, right? They're allowing 11 plays of 30-plus yards this season. That's 37th in the country. But they're 109th in the country in giving up 10-plus yard plays with 112 through 8 games so far this year. And in 5 Big Ten games, opponents have had 51 drives, Joey. They've scored touchdowns on 26 of them, and 3 of those drives of the 51 are scoreless drives that were to end the game, right? So they've forced 13 punts, only 3 field goals, and they've had just 2 takeaways in 51 defensive drives so far this year. In the red zone, 21 touchdowns on 24 red zone opportunities for Big Ten teams, only 3 field goals. Gross.
That doesn't strike me as good. And that the red zone is where it's supposed to be. You really stand and you force those field goals, and obviously you don't want them to get those, but that's kind of the bend but don't break approach. It's just been nothing's worked. So that's the thing. What concerns me about the Illinois defense, like we could just lean on those stats and move on to our second and 6-pack of questions here, right? Like if all of those stats are so concerning, there's no identity. That's what I don't understand what this defense wants to be. I know they want to be a bend but don't break. I know they want to limit explosives, but they're not pressuring the quarterback. They're not doing the bend but don't break thing very well. Like, what is this defense right now? I don't have that answer. I don't know what it can say it does well right now. Like, if you're bending, don't breaking, you should probably get some takeaways in that mix. They're not getting any takeaways, like none. That is an issue. And then I think the big thing that I keep coming back to, it's the same issues week over week. It is the same thing. And it's not like, oh, right, like they can't play man, so they got to play. They can't get off the field on third down. It's schematic issues. It's mental error issues. It's just execution issues that, you could at least understand, like, hey, they've got an injury here. They're not talented enough here. They've got to do things to overcome not being able to play certain ways defensively. But what do you got to do to overcome getting off the field on third down? Like, just get off the field, and especially on some of those third and longs. Like, that is the thing that bothers me, is we're talking about the same thing every single week. Like, yes, they've played good offenses. That has happened. The offenses they've gone against are nationally very, very good. But you're still having miscommunication You're still having missed tackles. Like, that is something that happens against every offense, not just the good ones. Like, that is, you cannot have that. Like, you're allowing 39.6 points in Big Ten play. Only Rutgers, of all the teams right now, is allowing more than that in conference play. It's just, nothing is working right now, and you're just seeing the same repeated things over and over and over again. And the crazy thing is, before I turned it over to you, after Ohio State, I thought, okay, they were put in really bad situations in short field. Yes, they gave up points, but like, it had a little bit more of the, hey, that looks a little bit better, right? Like, it's not great, and this defense is not going to be great, or I think increasingly good, but it looked better against Ohio State. And then it just completely, the wheels totally fell off at Washington.
Yeah, so you're right. We do have to mention they've played great offenses. Indiana's 6th in the country in offensive efficiency. USC is number 1 in the country in offensive efficiency. Washington is number 19 in offensive efficiency, and Ohio State is number 11. But you're not even putting up a fight. Like, if you give up 28 to 35 points, I mean, I can kind of get it. USC wasn't the worst performance. You actually forced some punts in that game. This is not even competitive at this point. And what concerns me, Joey, is the stat I read off about the 10+ yard plays. Like, you're not giving up a lot of explosives. You've given up a little bit more than last year because you've had some of those miscommunications. The Purdue game really stands out with that. But you can't even stop them from gaining 8, 9, 10, 11 yards. Like, what did Washington have through 3 quarters? Wasn't it like 8 yards per play?
7.5 yards per play through 3 quarters.
You have no aggression whatsoever. And Ryan Walters does not have a great defense at Washington. There's not a ton of great talent outside. Their cornerbacks are pretty good. But you just saw an aggression, like, even when they were trailing for that slight moment, even when it was a close game, there was just an aggression and a hair on fire, pull the trigger, which was always his thing. Like, Illinois is just tentative. Like, the way they're playing defense, they are thinking. They are not just running around playing football. And it's just the style of play that they have right now. They are not playing defensive football. They're not dictating anything right now. And I think that's a really concerning thing for Brett Bielema and Aaron Henry. And they have to find a way to simplify things and to get these guys playing with some fire, just some, like, they are taking it, like, just getting attacked by the offense and not fighting back, which is why I think they got to ramp up some aggression, especially with the 4 teams they have coming up. Like, these are not USC and Ohio State and Indiana and Washington. Like, these are not great offenses. Rutgers good enough to beat you offensively, and it scares me a little bit going up against them. But, man, you got to find a way to make sure that they have some confidence, that they're playing faster, because you watch, like, Washington do a check down to 2 yards and Illinois is 10 yards away and not looking to come up and make a tackle. Like, last year, you saw Caleb Patterson and Torrey Cox and some of these guys, Xavier Scott, obviously not on the field anymore, but coming up and just delivering hits. They're not doing that right now. So they got to find a way to get these guys to play with more aggression and confidence.
Yeah, and the thing that struck me about Washington is where that Washington team is defensively in terms of building a Ryan Walters scheme. They're not there in terms of personnel for Ryan to go full Ryan Walters defensive coordinator experience. So they did play a little bit more zone, a little bit more bend but don't break until that offense got him a lead. And then you saw Ryan Walters start to ramp it up. The Illinois offense is good enough to get you to that point. If you can get to a point that you've got a 10-point lead at any point, then, like, you could see Aaron Henry ramping it up a little bit, trying to get after them, trying to make them uncomfortable. They're just not getting to that point because the defense just cannot. Like, there was a 3rd and 13 to open that first drive for Washington. You felt like it was a better odds they were going to get it 3rd and 13 for, like, 3rd and goal from the 13. You thought there was a better chance they were going to get in the end zone. They were going to get stopped. They got in the end zone. Like, you can't give your offense a chance to build you a lead and then let you go in there and try to ramp it up a little bit, try to force some of those takeaways because you're playing within these close margins time and time again.
Yeah, so just the way they're deploying these guys, I think, is really just neutered them mentally. I think they are not playing with aggression. They're thinking about the explosives and keeping things in front of them. It's like, okay, but you're giving up 8-9 yards every time. Like, so what does it matter? You're not getting takeaways, so it doesn't matter. Like when those takeaway opportunities come about, Illinois is not able to get them. The players just aren't getting better right now. That's all of these players coming back. Who's gotten better this season on defense? Angelo McCollum?
I think Juice, you could say Juice Clark. Juice Clark had a tough game at Washington. I think overall he has taken a step.
That it? Like that's coaching. That's coaching. Like, and I think it's a lot of how they're deploying these guys right now and whatever their information they're feeding them. So what concerns me most about the defense is they look tentative, they look unconfident, and nobody's getting better. That's that all comes back to coaching for me.
Yeah, I don't know. How do you fix that? Like that's what Aaron Henry, I thought, and people aren't going to want to hear this. I thought Aaron Henry had a very good Monday press conference. Like that doesn't fix the defense. That doesn't make anyone like. If you're already out on Aaron Henry, I understand your frustration, and that press conference isn't going to change your opinion on Aaron Henry. But I
understand why you're out on Aaron Henry. By the way, I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, absolutely. But I thought Monday he took the ownership, he took accountability, he understood the urgency. That doesn't move the needle for fans who want to see just a better product defensively. But I do want to address it. I thought he handled himself well after what was just a terrible performance at Washington. But I still don't know how you fix some of these issues. What can you do to reinstill that confidence to play fast? Because this team, I'm glad Aaron Henry said it. If you turn on the tape of this team, they don't look confident defensively. That should not be the case. So how do you build that back up to get them playing fast? Because I think there are positions that lack talent, enough Big Ten talent on this defense. But I think largely you've got enough talent to get to where you need to go if you can play confidently.
You have enough talent to be a below average Big Ten defense, right? or an average Big Ten defense. You don't have enough talent to be a top tier Big Ten defense, but this offense just needs an average to below average one. You're a terrible one right now. You're holding back the offense, which Aaron Henry said, but we followed up. We asked Brett Bielema, how do you involve yourself more? They had a longer defensive meeting. He was involved more in that, Joey. Greg Schiano's done this with Rutgers with their defensive issues. Brett Bielema certainly sounds like he is getting more involved. That's not going to be play calling this week, but I do think it's going to be game planning. And he continued to mention third down as one of the biggest things that he needs to get involved with, because that down they are so bad at. So it'll be interesting to see what those things are. I think it's simplifying. I don't think it's man-to-man all the time against this Rutgers wide receiver core. We'll dive into that, but they do have to find a way to deploy these guys better, particularly on third down, but just something to change, because you can't keep doing what you're doing, even against worse teams, because Purdue scored 27 on you, right? Like, and that's not a good Purdue offense.
No, what happened to that third down turbo package? Like, I feel like I haven't seen that. And the thing is, you just laid out all the numbers, they're getting at times third and long, and you're not seeing that go and be deployed out there. Like, yes, teams are having their fair share of third and shorts, but Illinois has negative plays really recently so infrequently that when you get to that point, you've got to get off the field. Like, you're not getting sacks, you're not getting tackles for loss. You've got to take those moments and find your way off the field. Instead, Big Ten teams are converting on third down nearly 60% of the time.
Yeah. So what concerns me about this defense? All of it. Run defense is okay to subpar. But yeah, sure, all of it is a concern. It's never too soon to plan for Super Bowl season, and installing a Tushy bidet makes bathroom visits so much more comfortable for your guests and your pipes. I know this ad can make some people uncomfortable, they'll laugh about it, but I'm telling you guys, Installing a Tushy bidet makes every bathroom visit so much better. Never feel cleaner in your life. It is an absolute game changer. Tushy is the everyday luxury bidet that instantly transforms your bathroom habits and the bottom health for life. 99% of people who wash with Tushy Wave feel cleaner and fresher after going to the bathroom. And I'm not a handyman, guys, but installing the Tushy bidet took me about 10 or 15 minutes. And I'm telling you, it is a game changer for you. Put it in my bathroom, downstairs bathroom, and it's fantastic. So I'm telling you, you need to give the Tushy bidet a try. And for a limited time, our listeners get 10% off their first bidet order when you use code Illini at checkout. That's 10% off your first bidet order at hellotushy.com with promo code Illini. Yes, for a limited time, our listeners get 10% off their first bidet order when you use code Illini at checkout. That's 10% off your first bidet order at hellotushy.com with promo code Illini. Number 2, what's one personnel change you'd make to the Illini defense, Joey?
Is there anyone else who can play the star? That Xavier Scott position. And look, I'm not trying to be too harsh on sophomore Tanner Heckel here. I mean, he's probably playing before he needs to be playing all of these defensive snaps. I think he's still a kid with a bright future. He's very athletic. He's struggling right now. He's going through it right now. Can Torrey Cox go in there and play the star? I think that would make sense against a Rutgers wide receiver group that's bigger. And you could have Caleb Patterson. You could have Juice Clark. Can Tyler Strain, he's been around forever, can he be a guy who goes into that star just to take some of this pressure off Tanner Heckel? Like, you feel bad for him out there because he's just growing. He's learning. He's trying to figure this out. And you thought you were going to be able to rely on Xavier Scott this year, and an injury obviously wiped that away. I do think, we did see early on in the season Miles Scott play a few snaps at the star. Is Mac Rusetich any better right now at free safety to move Miles Scott there? I don't know that you can definitively say that. Sabor Kareem, has he played enough free safety snaps to go back there to make that change definitively better for your defense? We don't see practice. I don't know that you can say that because as far as we know, he's been the backup to Matthew Bailey for the last 2 years. Like, that's the boundary safety, not the free safety. So that's where you just kind of land on, can Torrey Cox or Tyler Strain go in there and handle that just to take a little bit off of Tanner Heck? Like, I feel bad for him because he's struggling and it shows up there, right?
Yeah, he's thrown in the fire, made a great play against Duke. And I got starting him right away. I know they're high on him and what he could accomplish, but I think 5 games into this is him as a starter and getting almost all the snaps at nickel. Teams are targeting him. As you said, I think he's going through it right now. I think he's just lacking confidence right now. And I still want to play him because I want him to work through those things, but I just think it needs to be in maybe a smaller role so we can gain some of that confidence. But I agree with you, like, especially going up against this Rutgers team with 6'6" KJ Duff and 6'3" Ian Strong. I don't know if it's great for Torrey Cox to be out in the corner anyway, going up against those guys. So can he move inside to nickel? I do think Torrey is reading things pretty well and pulling the trigger. It's just he's not making the plays, but certainly he's one of your better guys right now at that position. And Tyler Strain, I just like to get a veteran in there who's made mistakes, bounce back from them. Is he a high ceiling guy? Maybe not, but just to try that could make some sense. Some other things I could think about. Gabe Akis, do we need to move him on the interior more just to get him some matchups? We need to move him around a little bit between edge, 3 technique. I don't know, put him at the nose sometimes on these long third downs just to get him some opportunities to go and just let him pin his ears back. And whatever pass rush move you want to do, Gabe, do it because we need more from you. He's got 1 sack over the last 5 weeks. And I feel like a lot of these defensive front guys, they're doing what they're told, which is just kind of keep things contained. And Damon Williams, that certainly was the case. But they need to find more one-on-one matchups for him, whether it's blitzing on the edge with him so he can get some of those one-on-one matchups. You got to unlock him more. And then I've seen enough of the linebackers outside of Dylan Rosiak struggling that is there a Grant Bierman sub package that I can get his athleticism and length on the field? Might want to see that.
Can I pause that until a later on question? Because I also had interest in seeing more of Grant Bierman.
But just the sub packages in general, Joey. It was great last year.
I thought I thought that was the story of the defense this year. You have all of these different pieces, these different skill sets, these different body types that can fit and mold to this situation or that one. And I don't feel like we've seen that deployed in the way. That was the most encouraging thing about the defense down the stretch last season was, oh, it's third and long. Here comes Malachi Hood. What's that? Kaneno DeLuca's a nose tackle? Great, right? Like you're seeing all of these different things happening. It's a different look. And where has that been? I have not seen that.
All right, number 3. What concerns you most about this Rutgers offense that can put up points, Joey? And boy, they can throw the ball through the air with Ethan Kaliakmanis. And I don't want to overlook the running back, who's pretty dang good too.
They can throw it. They can throw the ball around, which is what we just talked about. Like Illinois has struggled to deal with that. Like they are not. Rutgers has the 35th best offensive S&P in the country, and in Big Ten play has the second most passing yards, 280.6. What gives you any indication in the last few weeks that Illinois is going to be able to handle that? They have big receivers. You're right. They don't have a lot of yards after the catch, but they go up and get the ball. And how many contested catches do you think that's going to be with the way the Illinois defense has played and kind of given up some of those underneath like that? That concerns me, their ability to throw the ball around. Your best hope here, and there is, if I could provide a small dose of hope with that, in Big Ten play, Ethan Kaliakmanis is completing just 58.5% of his passes with 5 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So this is not, I mean, he can really move it. They are going to give him the opportunity to throw the football around. He's one of the most frequent throwers in the Big Ten. So there's a little bit of window there, but you still got to deal with KJ Duff. You still got to deal with Ian Strong and their contested catchability. That is really concerning to me because we just haven't seen Illinois' pass defense get takeaways. We haven't seen them get their hands on balls. Of late, we haven't seen them wrap up on tackles. So those yards after the catch that aren't huge for Rutgers, they can be if you don't wrap the guy up. So like that, any team that can throw it and chunk play like that, that is really concerning for me against this defense.
Yeah, there's just matchup issues, especially if Torrey Cox is going to be one of those corners, which is why I think it's a really important day for Jaheim Clark and Caleb Patterson. Like Caleb has not played as well as he did last year. This year, I think everybody knows that. But you could use a 6'2" corner going up against KJ Duff, who's 6'6", 225. He leads the Big Ten in contested catches with 13. They chuck it up to him. 24 contested catch opportunities for KJ Duff. So 3 times per game. They're just throw it up to him, see what happens. Ian Strong, same thing. 19 contested catch opportunities in 7 games for him. He did not play last week, but he's 6'3", 211 pounds, had a great game against Illinois last year. Even their slot receiver, Joey, has 7 contested catches on 11 opportunities. So Ethan does just kind of put it out there for his receivers. For Bears fans, it's like Rex Grossman back in the day. Screw it. Just throw it up, see what you guys can do. And they're big enough with Duff and Strong that they can go get it. So you got to heat him up. You got to heat Ethan Kaliakmanis up. He's not as mobile as Damon Williams or some of the guys they played. He's not as accurate as Jaden Maeva or Julian Sayin, but he's got a lot of trust in his receivers, and his receivers are really good, and he's very experienced. So there's a quarterback that knows last year he played well against Illinois in their secondary, but you put him under pressure, he's not very good. 53% completion rate, 3 interceptions under pressure this year. Get some pressure on him. He takes a lot of sacks that he shouldn't. You know, he's got 8 sacks that are to blame for him. He's taken the most sacks in the Big Ten at 27. Time to get aggressive, Joey. If you lose one-on-one battles, I don't expect a lot of man-on-man. That's fine. You're losing anyway. So at least try to heat up this quarterback. Give your secondary a few less seconds to have to cover these guys, and maybe give them some opportunities where Ethan Kaliakmanis throws off his back foot and they actually have a chance to make a play on the ball. Just go down swinging. Like, if you're going to go down like this, at least get aggressive. And this is the kind of quarterback I think you can do that with. Now, you better have a spy on him because he can move. He can scramble for some yards as he did last year. But it's time to ramp up the aggression here.
Yeah, I 100% with you. I don't know if that's send 5 more, but like I really want the defensive front to just be more intent to get after him. Like, he isn't Damon Williams. If he gets a running lane, trust your linebacker to get there and keep that contained. Like, you don't have to treat him like he's DeMond Williams, because there's not a lot of DeMond Williams and their running ability in college football. So get upfield. If he takes off, he takes off for a couple.
Treat him like Mensa. Like Mensa, they had a spy on him, and he's going to make some plays and make some throws on you, but he's also going to give you some opportunity for some takeaways if you're aggressive. And it felt like Illinois was way more aggressive against Duke.
Yeah, I just want to see this front really try to put pressure on Nathan Kaliakmanis on the road. I mean, he's experienced as all get out, but just try to get after him and shake things up a little bit here, because the idea of containing a quarterback in the pocket, all we've seen that do is give them 5 seconds to sit back there and pick apart a secondary. Like that, this secondary is looking worse because they have to cover forever because you're intentionally not getting pressure up front. Now, they're not helping themselves in a lot of cases with some of the missed tackles and communication breakdowns back there, but don't make them cover forever. Try to get some pressure back there.
It's frustrating. Like many of you, my wife and I, a little bit of coffee snobs. I mean, there's some nights you go to bed and you just go, man, I can't wait to wake up and have my fresh cup of coffee, right? But it's got to be a good one. And that's why my wife and I go to Columbia Street Roastery. They have freshly roasted coffee and all sorts of flavors. Try out their fall seasonal flavored coffees. They're right there at csrcoffee.com. It includes their pumpkin pie blend, which you can go check out right now. Columbia Street Roastery has a lot of different flavors, from your fall seasonal blends to your medium roast to dark roast. Go check it out at csrcoffee.com, where you can get free shipping on orders of over $45. And our listeners, you get 10% off your first order if you use code GOILLINI2025. So visit csrcoffee.com, get free shipping on over $45, and get 10% off your first order with code GOILLINI2025. Visit Columbia Street Roastery at csrcoffee.com. All right, number 4. Let's look at some positives, Joey. What's one positive we shouldn't overlook about the Illini offense from last week?
Yeah, they tapped into Luke Altmaier's running ability. Now, I say that. I want that dude throwing the ball as much as possible because he's really, really good at doing that. But Barry Lunny sounded like this is something they want to unlock a little bit more down the stretch of the final 4 games. It's something I thought we could have seen really even before that. Do you realize, Jeremy, how good of a runner Luke Altmaier has been at Illinois in the non-sack department? The sacks really hit that number hard. According to Pro Football Focus, in his 3-year career at Illinois, he's got 1,116 rushing yards. Obviously, that's not going to be what's in the box score because of stats, but those are just the raw numbers there. And they're about split halfway between scramble and designed runs. Like it's about 500 each in those departments here. So they're willing to let him get out there and make some plays with his feet, and he's really good at that. You don't want to do it too much because if Luke Altmaier gets hit and gets hurt, that's a bad situation all around. But he had his most designed rushing yards of the season last week with 48, according to PFF. I think that can open up more in the running game. That feels like it's kind of getting to that point that it's about due to get going on the ground. I'm not going to try to make the 2018 comparison with A.J. Bush and Reggie Corbin, but if a defense has to account that, oh, right, that guy can get out there and run, maybe that opens up something for Khalil Valentine, for Aiden Lawford, for Caden Fagan, and just a little bit more space back there. But I thought, I mean, we don't need to sit here and talk about Luke Altmaier's ability to throw the ball. We know he can do that well, but I thought getting into that running game with him was something that could be really beneficial to this offense.
Yeah, I'll probably talk about it a little bit more later here, but I don't want to overlook the offensive line has played pretty well the last 4 games. And it's been interesting talking with Bart Miller, and you've done most of that, Joey, and Barry Lunny Jr. And Barry said this week something interesting about how the Western Illinois game he was referring to maybe gave them a false sense of what they were in the running game. And it took them some games to figure out that that's not what they were. And, you know, Bart's brought up that they changed kind of what they're doing. There's more duo blocking, a little bit more physicality, kind of getting upfield more than zone blocking. They're still doing a mix of both, but they are playing better. And it's kind of gotten overlooked the last 2 weeks because they've gotten so far behind. But 76 rushing yards by your running backs on 20 carries against Ohio State's dominant defense, that's not too bad. And last week, they had 115 yards on 23 carries through the first 3 quarters, and then they just had to throw the ball a bunch. They never got the opportunity to really lean on Washington, but I thought they were the more physical crew there in the trenches, and I thought they've protected Luke Altmaier really well here the last several weeks where he's had a lot of time. Now, Luke has done a fantastic job of eluding pressure a couple times against Washington when they really brought some blitzes and making plays, but there's only 5 offensive linemen, and they have not given up that many pressures with the offensive line. JC Davis is having a great year, a phenomenal year. He's been one of the best left tackles in the Big Ten. Melvin Priestley's really turned it up. Josh Geske's played really well this year. I think he's really improved his game. So
this is his best season of his career, Josh Geske. I think he's playing good ball.
So going into this stretch of games, I think you can see some similarities to what happened last year, where they really started to impose their will against some of these teams. And they are going up against some rushing defenses that are not very good, including this Rutgers team, Joey. They're giving up 200 yards per game in Big Ten play. Now, Oregon ran for 400 of that, but Purdue ran all over them. I think this offensive line, if given a chance by its defense, can start to really assert itself and lean on teams in the running game. And then you set up Luke Altmaier with all kind of possibilities if you get that play action game going, which they've protected really well. And so the offensive line was a huge, huge issue first 4 weeks. I think it's been a strength the last 4 games.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I know the numbers aren't all the way there yet, but the running game you can just see start to happen. I thought I was really encouraged with Caden Fagan at Washington. That little cut he had, it was just one play, but I like that decision to see that, to go and to get upfield. We've seen it with Khalil Valentine. I think Aiden Lawford is getting closer to that point. He was bottled up a little bit at Washington, but you're right. There's a little bit of overlap here in the way that they closed last season on the ground, and I think there's a window to open that up.
Yeah, it doesn't excuse the first 4 games, right?
No, it should have been. This should have been a faster start for this offensive line. But I think you and I are of the belief that we have to acknowledge that. We have to say that. But if you just dwell on, well, what about the first 4? You're going to miss what's been a pretty solid offensive line performance here of late and potentially to close the season.
Yeah, I just think don't overlook them. They're building something there that against these worse opponents, I think they can really assert themselves. Number 5, Joey, who's one player you think needs or could emerge during the final 4 games?
Yeah, you touched on it earlier. It feels like a freshman, and it feels like a freshman defender somewhere, right? Like that. Those feel like the answers here. I think that is Grant Bierman. He's already used a red shirt. He's already played in more than 4 games. So you're not used a red shirt. He's already passed the threshold to red shirt. So you're not really hurting anything by putting him out there if you think he's ready. Outside of Dylan Rosiak, who are you looking at and say, hey, we can't take this linebacker off the field for this incredibly intriguing freshman? You're going to have some growing pains. Maybe you have him with Grant Bierman in there as well. I'm not saying that you start him and you play him 60 snaps a game. That is not setting him up for success. Are there sub packages? Is he more involved in the rotation and some of these? He's so intriguing, Jeremy. He is so physically intriguing. He needs to still add weight. But I think the way that they've used him on special teams, typically if you're that big of a special teams player, if you're that involved special teams, it's not a long runway before you're involved defensively. I know historically there's been some walk-ons who you couldn't say that about, but guys who are this talented, this is highly thought of, there's usually a pretty quick window to get them in on some of those defensive or offensive, in a lesser case, snaps. I just like to see him a little bit more. Let's see what he's got out there. And hey, look, if it doesn't work, then you go back to the other guys, right? Like, but give him a chance to go make it work.
I think it's got to be a specific role. So maybe it's third down. I don't know. But I think it's got to be a specific role for him. Maybe it's pass rushing. I don't know. But you got to get some more athleticism on the field, and maybe just gives you a little bit of juice at some point. Speaking of that, like, is there a corner? Is RJ Jones, the freshman, ready to go? They love his size and speed. And if you do move Torrey Cox inside, could he be the third corner along with Caleb Patterson and Juice Clark? Give you some size out there and to see what he's got for some snaps. That could be it. I don't want to say like Caden Fagan can emerge but I do think like there could be a good stretch for the running game coming up here. The other guy we know has emerged, but I want to bring up is Cole Rusk. Joey, this is 2 really good games in a row. I know they're losses. I know you're throwing the ball around to try and catch up, but this is real. Like Cole Rusk's skill set is really, really exciting. And Can I give you a stat that I spent way too much time researching?
I've been waiting to hear this stat. Yes.
Cole Rusk, this is just the intro to the stat. There's a second part that's even crazier. Cole Rusk is the first Illini tight end with 250-plus yard games in a single season since Daniel Barker in 2020, okay? But I was going through Sports Reference every year, going all the way back to 1994. That's as far back as they go. No Illini tight end has had back-to-back games with 50-plus receiving yards since then. And I'm pretty sure Ken Dilger did it that year in 1994, one of the best tight ends in Illinois history, because he averaged 50 yards per game. It has been 31 years since a tight end has done what Cole Rusk has done, 2 50-plus yard games in a row. 14 catches for 169 yards now. Most of that was 114 the last two games. He's on pace to be the most productive tight end under Brett Bielema. And potentially the most productive since Lou Dorsey back in 2017, who had 395 yards. The highest under Brett Bielema. Daniel Barker had 202. Tip Ryman had 203 in 2023. So it's going to take just a few more catches for Cole Rusk to do that. This is a different skill set. This is what we thought Cole Rusk was capable of doing. Luke Altmaier clearly trusts him. And I thought Barry made a great point of he's not forcing it to him. It's just part of the offense. But that catch in the seam late in the game, man, was really impressive. There's just a choice route where he settles in his own, gets you an easy first down. The 2-point conversion was a really nice play, which doesn't count towards his stats. He's got to be part of this offense. And Luke was lobbying for him late in the game that we need to make him a bigger part of the offense. I agree. There's got to be 30-plus snaps. Like, he's got to be used more on this team because he just gives them another weapon. And this team's got to score points to win games. So if that makes my quarterback feel better, if there's another guy we can trust to make contested catches, because who do you trust to make contested catches right now? Hudson Clement's not that guy right now. And Hank Beatty can. He's small. Colin Dixon, I've been really encouraged about here the last 5 weeks, but Cole Rusk got to be part of this. So we know he's emerged, Joey, but I just wanted to mention him.
No, I'm glad you did. I was glad to hear Barry say, like, not forcing it to, we're paraphrasing Barry a little bit, but that's kind of what we saw early on. It's like, oh, Cole's out there. Luke's going to him. I think that the biggest thing for Cole Rusk is he is holding his own enough at the line of scrimmage he's not Tanner Arkin. He's not Christian Abney at the line of scrimmage, but he's holding his own enough that you could feel good about his skill set getting down the field, and to know that you don't have to telegraph everything. Defenses can't see 14 on the field, no pass. Like, I think that is such a big thing. I need you to send me those stats for Final Word Friday, because I was looking through, I'd given up last night to watch baseball, how many offensive snaps he's played, pass snaps,
Can I give you that?
Targeted.
Oh,
yes.
I'll give you the run blocking. Before his first 1, 2, 3, sorry to do this counting, 6, he had 11 run blocking snaps his first 6 games of the season. He's got 14 the last 2 games. They're starting to use him more on those 12 personnel where they actually do run the ball. And he's not great. He's not great, Joey, but he provides you that threat. But he has been awesome as a pass catcher. So they need to involve him more in this offense. And if he can just be serviceable as a run blocker, not hurt you, they need to play him. Christian Abney certainly got a role in some of those 12 personnel. He had another great block last week for a key first down run. But this guy's one of your better weapons in the passing game, so use him.
Yeah, I co-sign on all that. I had him initially, and I thought, Jeremy said something about a tight end stat, so I'm sure he's going to use that. And I feel like this is the 3rd straight podcast. We've talked a ton about Cole Rusk, but when you have the production he's had, that catch down the seam at Washington was like, whoa, I have not seen that from an Illinois tight end in a little bit now. And then to hold on to it, taking a pretty good hit, that was, I mean, you had seen moments before that. That was a play to me. It's like, yep, doesn't matter. Get Cole Rusk out there.
Number 6, Joey, how many of the final 4 games do you think Illinois will win?
Oh, boy, Jeremy. The answer is probably 3. I think just there's trip-ups that happen, but screw that. Whatever. Luke Altmaier is really good. This offense is really good. Barry Lunny is really good. Now, the Wisconsin defense can give you fits. That is a good defense that Wisconsin has. Can they score enough? Can Wisconsin score enough, even against this Illinois defense, to really put that in danger? We'll see what the defense looks like going into Madison. We'll see what Madison looks like when Illinois gets to Madison. Maryland can score. Maryland can do things. Northwestern and Maryland are like the frisky teams, right? I worry about Rutgers and their ability to just pick apart this Illinois defense. So I have some concerns about staying 4-0, but I'm going to, because I really believe in what this offense can do. And I think if this offense is going, it's really hard for these last 4 teams on the schedule, Rutgers, I guess, notwithstanding, to keep pace with that. I don't know if I'm going to feel good about that on Saturday afternoon, but Luke Altmaier is really, really good, man, and he can score a lot of points.
And the teams they're playing are very good. 3 is probably the right answer, like the smart head answer. But I look at these matchups, and if the defense can just get a little better, Illinois is a better team than these. I believe that. This is still a team that went to Duke and won. Sure, it took a lot of takeaways, but the defense did a good job with that. Where's that defense? Like,
still beat USC.
And that's the thing. They beat USC. They went to Purdue and beat them pretty handily. They probably should have beat them by more, but they beat them handily. What I worry about is this game, because Rutgers has some confidence after losing, after coming back and beating Purdue. Still, Purdue lost that game basically, and then Illinois' defense is like, do they have confidence? Can they find that this week without playing a Wisconsin? That gives them some false confidence that could actually probably help them. I think Rutgers and Northwestern are the toughest one. Rutgers because their offense, Northwestern because they're probably going to be playing for a bowl game. To be honest with you, I think they're going to still have 5 wins when Illinois plays them. But Illinois has more talent than those 2 teams. So it's on Brett Bielema and Aaron Henry to figure it out, because I have no questions about Luke Altmaier, this offense, Barry Loney Jr. They're going to put up a lot of points over these next 4 games. If you can just get some punts, get some takeaways, I think Illinois is going to win them all. Wisconsin can't score. Even against this Illinois defense, I don't think they're going to score very many points. Their defense could hold Illinois in the 20s. I think that's a possibility and muck it up. Maryland has won 2 of their last 13 games. They've come back down to earth here. They're a young team that'll be playing on the road. Their quarterback makes mistakes because he's young, but he is talented, and they got some talent on that team. I think Illinois will win at least 3 of them. I would predict them to win all 4. And that's what I said before the season. I didn't think the defense would look this bad, so it does leave you a little bit more vulnerable. But Brett Bielema is going to involve himself a little bit more, and I don't see him letting this season just collapse here, Joey.
Yeah, 100% on that. If this defense is even just marginally better, I would have said 4 without any hesitation. Can you imagine if they recover that muff punt, and if James Krutz picks that pass off, which is how much better you'd feel about that? Yeah, that's absolutely right. I just a little bit better for the Steves. The kind of the thing about this defense that is frustrating in another sense. I think someone brought this up. Shout out to whoever brought it up on the pod on Saturday, that only exists on YouTube because of audio issue that everyone told us about. We had no idea how to fix it. Not forcing punts means you're taking Hank Beatty and one of his best skill sets out of the game. Like that is kind of quietly a really big deal, just in terms of his ability to get, I mean, you don't think he's going to house them all, but just to get this offense in a little bit better field position. I think that would be a huge deal for this Illinois team.
Yeah, I'd written that up. How many punt returns does he have in the last couple games? I forgot where I wrote that up, but he's barely touched the ball on those punt returns just because they don't force any, and teams are starting to punt away from him. So, they just aren't giving him many opportunities. And anytime he can get the ball in his hands, right, is really, really important. So, all right, let's go with our picks to click. Joey, last week, you nailed yours. Cole Rusk, nice. Hit that one. I picked Hudson Clement. It was there.
Almost.
It was a drop. It was thrown behind him on the 1, but, man, the drop in the end zone. The Illinois scored on the drive still, but, man, you got to come down with those. Hudson's now 1 for 7 on contested catches, man. They're so close to connecting, but it's not happening right now. So we'll see how that changes during the final mark of the season. But who's your pick to click offense, Joey?
Hank Beatty. For as bad as this Illinois defense is, Rutgers isn't much better. They do not defend the pass particularly well. They allow 275 passing yards per game in Big Ten play. By the way, that's just 3 yards better than Illinois. So for as bad as you feel justifiably about the Illinois pass defense, Rutgers is not much better. I think that play that hit Hank Beatty in the chest that leads to an interception, he's kind of the guy that I feel good about, like having a Matthew Bailey type rebound. I thought it's very similar to how I felt about Bailey after the Purdue game going into USC. It's like, oh yeah, he played much better. Hank Beatty wasn't as low as Matthew Bailey was at Purdue, but I just feel like he's a guy who's going to bounce back, and his quarterback trusts him. He made some pretty good plays. Like that play down the sideline, I know it was in your film review, Jeremy, like a one-handed catch. It was really good play design, play execution by him and Luke Altmaier. So he's coming off of an okay game. He just feels kind of due for that. Whoa, right. Hank Beatty, like what he did against Purdue, these pass defenses are very similar, Purdue and Rutgers. So, I just feel like he's due for one.
Hank Beatty, 73 yards, okay game. I love that we've gotten to that point with Hank Beatty. But yeah, I agree with you.
I know. I felt like there was just a little bit there.
I agree with you because like he didn't make a catch you expect him to make, and it went for an interception. 45 catches, 690 yards. He's number 9 in the country in receiving yards. An amazing season for Hank Beatty. Not to take away even his rushing touchdown against Duke, his passing touchdown that he had, and a punt return touchdown. So he's playing like an all-American, all-purpose guy right now. But I agree. It's going to be a big game for him. I'm going with the other guy, Colin Dixon. Quietly, Joey, having a great stretch. Last 5 games for Colin Dixon, 19 receptions, 321 yards. That's 70 yards per game, 3 touchdowns for Colin Dixon. Kind of gets overshadowed how good he has been the last 5 games. He's got the trust, and boy, he catches the ball almost every single time. Like there's no question that usually he's coming down with it. So he can make plays after the catch. There's going to be a lot of focus on Hank Beatty, but quietly, Colin Dixon per target just continues to be very, very productive. And, Luke really trusts him in the red zone on some of those. I mean, that slant, he ran really well. Luke set it up really well. So Colin Dixon, I think is kind of a guy that's kind of gone under the radar a little bit here. All right. Do we have a pick to click defensively, Joey? Who are you going with?
Gabe Akis. It's time. It is just time. The Rutgers offensive line will allow some pressures. I think the way that Aaron Henry talked about Gabe Akis when he was asked about Gabe Akis on Monday, I think it's time to move him around a little bit. I texted you, and I know it's not apples to apples, but I watch how the Packers use Micah Parsons, a little bit of here, a little bit of there. Gabe Akis isn't going to play off the ball like Micah Parsons does, but maybe you have him on an edge this play and you move him in the interior that play. You've just got to he is your best defensive player. He has not been nearly as productive, in part because game plan. He's got to win more one-on-one battles. He's got to win more battles, and teams are sending everything to him. So I guess my point is, can you get him into one-on-one and let him go? Whatever the game plan is the next 4 games, his shouldn't change. Gabe, go get the quarterback. We have no other responsibilities for you. Go get the quarterback, change plays. It just feels time for him to have that. And I think that's on the Illinois coaching staff too, to put him in different looks, different situations where you can let him go change games as a pass rusher.
Yeah, and they've had issues at left tackle this year. I think they've had 3 guys play at that position, giving up a lot of sacks, a lot of pressures at that position. Got to find a way to get him to feast, whether it's, bringing a Matthew Bailey or somebody off the edge, a linebacker to just draw, 2 blockers out there, and maybe Gabe helps Matthew Bailey get a sack. Like, you just got to find a way to impact him more, whether it's as a guy who draws attention to help somebody else or, getting him in one-on-one situations, because it's not happening quite enough. And Gabe has to be better. He's owned that, but he's definitely got to be better too. All right, I'm going to go. I don't know if I can predict it's going to happen, but I'm going to go Torrey Cox Jr. Is it at star? Is it at corner? I don't know. But he's just the one guy in that secondary right now who is reading things, who is pulling the trigger and trying to make plays. Not making enough of them, but at least he's playing with his hair on fire. And I just feel like he almost picked up that fumble on that exchange because he read the play well, went and got it. He's read some plays and just not made the tackle because obviously he's diminutive. And going up against these Rutgers receivers might not be the greatest pick, but if he does move inside or if he just reads one of those plays well and takes advantage of an Ethan Kaliakmanis missed throw, I think Torrey Cox is close to making a play. So I'll go Torrey Cox. Bold to go somebody in the secondary, but I'm going to go with him.
No, I like it. I thought Brett Bielema had an interesting comment on Monday and talking about the DBs. He said Juice Clark, Caleb Patterson, Torrey Cox to a degree have the keys to I think he said Ferrari, and they're leaving it in the garage. Like, I think he wants a little bit more out of those guys. But I agree with you. I mean, obviously you would want more out of a secondary that's not played well, but to mention those three I thought was really interesting in terms of the cornerback. He is a guy, like, there's been plays like, Torrey Cox is right there. He seems to be very much understanding of what's going on out there. He's just got to make some of those plays. So I like that. Patterson's an interesting one to me. This is probably one of the better matchups against some of these bigger receivers for him. So could he be a guy who maybe it's a TFL somewhere, maybe it's a couple pass breakups that Illinois doesn't have of late. So can he be that guy?
All right, give me a bold prediction offense, Joey.
You almost convinced me to change mine, but I think I know where yours is going to go.
By the way, I got to mention, you last week picked 2 tight end receiving touchdowns. I'm still going to give it to you because Arkin had the receiving touchdown. Jordan Anderson had the running touchdowns. I'm going to give you that one. I had 140-plus rushing yards. If they just would have had the ball in the fourth quarter with a chance to win, I think they would have done that because they had 115 through 3 quarters, but they barely ran it in the fourth quarter. But you got it, Joey. So go for this week.
This is that Purdue game for Luke Altmaier was so dominant, and yet the touchdowns weren't there. This feels awfully bold. 4 touchdown passes for Luke Altmaier against this Rutgers defense. You see what he did against Purdue, and then they just leaned in and you run it in there. The running game, I think, is probably where you're going to go. You can prove me wrong on that, but I think he gets some of those chunks in the red zone. And here's the thing. Right now, the way he's operating in the red zone, the way Barry Lunny's calling it in the red zone, just get creative and let the guy get it to Cole Rusk. Or we saw Tanner Arkin. Like, I think they feel very good about his execution in some of those short yardage red zone plays to just throw it in there instead of trying to run up the middle, which I think obviously Caden Fagan and 3 and fewer is someone you would trust there.
Somebody's got to watch the Bears red zone offense right now. It just makes me really appreciate what Barry Lunny does down there. He is so creative down there and not afraid to get creative, like on those early downs, first or second down, to find it in the end zone. Cause a lot of teams think you're just going to try and run it in there and they find openings. You read me well. I've been leading up to the running attack. I think it is going to start to lean on people, some worse opponents here. And Rutgers is one of them. And I just think Illinois is going to have a lead late in the game. And I think they're going to be able to run the football. That's Caden Fagan time. I've seen some good things out of Caden, like his 18-yard run, well blocked, but he set up the block so well in the hole, made a guy miss, just really decisive. I think he's due a big game, so I'm going to go 100-plus yards, whether that's from scrimmage, rushing. I just think Caden Fagan going to have a really good day. So I'll go Caden Fagan, 100-plus yards from scrimmage we'll go with. So I just think Illinois is going to have a really good day on the ground.
Yeah, I kind of sensed you were going that way, and then I was in hearing you and talking, I was like,
not a good.
Maybe I'm too high on the 4 passing touchdowns for Luke.
No, because that's where they go in the red zone. Like if you could run for like 180 yards and Luke runs for 240, I can still see, or passes for 240. I could see 4 touchdowns because that's how they get the ball in the end zone most of the time.
Yeah, and it felt like that Purdue game, he was doing everything other than throwing passing touchdowns. Like he was dominating a defense that's similarly bad.
All right, bold prediction defense, Joey. Here we go. These are bold.
Do you want to start with this, or do you want me to?
I'll throw it out there. 3 sacks. 3 sacks for Illinois' defense in this game. They've had 0 the last 2 games, I believe. They have 5 in all of Big Ten play. But Brett Bielema taking over 3rd downs. Aaron Henry mentioning they have to be more aggressive. I just think they're going to bring it more, and why wouldn't you? So I'll go 3 sacks against a Rutgers team that's got to pass the ball a lot, and has a suspect offensive line. They're solid. They're okay, but they got some weak points on that. So I just expect Illinois to get after a little bit more. So 3 sacks for Illinois' defense.
I flirted with the sacks bold prediction. I'm going to say Illinois gets their first interception since the USC game, which was a month ago, and they do it twice. Because I think they're going to, just saying a team gets an interception in a college football game doesn't feel very bold to me. So you gotta really ramp up the bold prediction a little bit. Ethan Kaliak-Manis did not throw a pick against Purdue. Join the party. He had 2 against Oregon, 1 against Washington, 1 against Minnesota, 1 against Iowa. I think Illinois is going to want to heat him up. He's thrown 3 interceptions when he's been under pressure. If you just got to put some of those over the middle, this feels like an opportunity for Illinois. Now, I say that, and the last we saw, Matthew Bailey's got a club on a hand, and Tanner Heckel, if he's playing star, has a brace on a hand, so that doesn't really feel conducive to getting interceptions. Torrey Cox, can you be a guy who does that? Juice Clark, can you be a guy? Miles Scott, can you be a guy? Like, you are just not taking the ball away at a high enough level, and it's on your coordinator in part and your coaches in part to get some heat up front and make a quarterback throw under pressure and go make a play on a ball.
2 interceptions all year for Illinois, I believe. They're mostly relying on
one was Dylan Rosiak.
One was Heckel.
Who was the other one? And the other was Heckel at Duke.
That's it.
That's not enough. That is not enough.
Yeah, not enough.
And you saw at Washington, like, forced fumbles, awesome, right? Like, those have been what Illinois has been good at until the ball doesn't go your way. Until that muff punt falls into the hands of Washington, until the botched handoff stays in the hands of Washington, interceptions are your window to go change this thing. And they are just not doing that at nearly a high enough clip.
Yeah, speaking of, last week, my bold prediction was a linebacker interception, and it should have hit, Joey. Dang it, it should have hit. James Kreutz is right there. Demond Williams could not see sometimes those linebackers, and you missed that opportunity. It's a different game. If you make that play, you had Juice Clark interception, obviously did not happen, but the corners this year, 2 pass breakups and 0 interceptions. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's got to be better. And that's, like, you look at corners, obviously, that number jumps out, but the safety number jumps out to me too. Like, those, we always talk about the free safety spot, which is Miles Scott, it's been Kirby Joseph, it's been Kendall Smith. That when this Illinois defense is going, I've said this on here before, that boundary safety spot is really, really making plays on the ball. And that's not happened either. Like, you need those 2 safeties to take the ball away.
And I think part of that scheme, though, too, right? Because when you're playing man-to-man coverage and getting after people and pressure, they got to get rid of the ball a little bit quicker when they're taking on that pressure. And they don't have to do that. They can wait for those guys to get open. So just not as many opportunities. So it's all working hand in hand, where it feels like you got to change up a lot going into this week. Plus, it's a much different opponent than you have played. So huge game for Illinois, because if you win this one in front of the home crowd, it's a sellout crowd. How many will be there? I still think it's going to be a pretty good crowd, but I know people, college football play, if you don't make it, it's a failure, not living up to expectations. You can still have a great season for Illinois football, but you got to start here. You got to start here because if you lose this one, Joey, you wonder, where's the team go from here? Like what is the mindset here? You win this one, bounce back, get a Maryland team in 2 weeks, get an off week, heal up a little bit more. Wisconsin, I think, is dead to rights right now. And Northwestern, probably a little bit more competitive than we thought it was going to be, but that's a home game for a rivalry trophy that Illinois needs to keep winning that game more often. So if you just bounce back in this one, you feel good that you can end your season strong and go to a really good bowl game here.
Yeah, I understand where all the disappointment is, but you still have 4 very winnable games on your schedule. You still have a chance to be a 9-win team in the regular season. To me, it feels like 8 would be the floor of where you could go. And I understand you come off that Washington game, and it feels like the sky is falling because you don't stop anyone. This offense is really, really good. This is a big chance to get some of that momentum back and carry that into the final stretch of a really winnable part of your season.
Were you shocked that the spread was, what is it, 11.5, 12.5 now?
That felt kind of high, to be honest. I mean, just given what you saw out of that Illinois defense. What was the over-under? Have you seen?
I'm
looking that up 300.
Illinois opened as 10.5. That's moved to 12.5. The over-under is 62.5.
Does that not feel low to you?
It's a lot of points.
We've watched these defenses.
Yeah. So what would that be? That'd be projecting. Oh, geez, trying to do math here.
I say that if I go back and look at my prediction that I typed in this morning, I probably fall similarly in line with that. It just feels a little bit low.
They'd be projecting like a 38-24 or 38-37-25, something like that score. Yeah.
That actually might be about where I lined up if I have to.
I was pretty close to that, to be honest. All right, great stuff. We appreciate you guys listening to the Illini Inquirer podcast. Give us a follow, rating, review wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button right now, subscribe, and hit that notifications bell. For Joey Wagner, I'm Jeremy Warner. Everybody have a great day. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you next time on the Illini Inquirer podcast.